Today's topic, as said, will be the product configurator. For those who are not familiar with EOS, or for those who are, EOS Solution is part of the Vision Group with 12 branches in Italy and one recently opened in the United States. We are also proud to be recognized as the world's leading publisher of apps on AppSource. Saying that, EOS has developed more than 100 apps, all specialized in different sectors. Our apps cover the manufacturing, logistics, distribution, and more. So we advise you to request the free trial of our apps to start testing them against all your scenarios. Moving forward to the next slide then, to become an EOS reselling partner, if you are not, the procedures is very straightforward, involving the signing of an agreement and purchase it through a dedicated app store. To our partner, we also reserve a dedicated margin. Now I pass the floor to Laura, our consultant, who will guide us through a demo of the Product Configurator app. Thanks once again for joining us today.
Okay, so welcome again, everybody. I'm Laura Rembo, and I'm here for explaining you what is Configurator. So Configurator is a tool where you pick and choose different options to create a product that suits your need or preference. And what is Product Configurator for EOS Solution? Product Configurator is something that is composed by two apps, Product Configurator and Product Configurator for Manufacturing. Product Configurator is the one that you use with a Business Central Essential experience. Instead, Product Configurator for Manufacturing is the one that you use with a premium experience. Product Configurator for Manufacturing anyway cannot stand alone. So if you use a Product Configurator for Manufacturing, you have to use also Product Configurator. So what I'm going to show to you today, I'm going to show you the basic management of configuration. So how to build up characteristic and put together characteristic into rules. What are rules and relation? How to play with price, so how to create price for a configured product, and how to use the product configurator for manufacturing, so how to create bill of material and routing. So first, we start with the configuration setup. So as I said before, by characteristic, so basically by question and answer. How to put together characteristics, so how to create a rule, and how to associate characteristic to an item. So how to attach the rule to the specific item. So I start with the first video, and it's a quick demo. And let's see. So first of all, I create a characteristic, and it's pretty simple. I press on new, I assign a code and a description. And then in each characteristic, the characteristics that are structure, because we will see later on two different characteristic type. One is structure and the other one is the measure one. If a characteristic is a structure, I have to assign to it a different value. So for this one, we assign dark color and then code light with the description light color. You can also manage translation directly into the characteristic value if you use several languages in your configuration. Then I go into the rule, and the create a rule is pretty simple. Just press on new, assign the code, and write down the description. Then in the rule, you can assign, connect the characteristic, press on characteristic, and here you have just to select the different characteristic code. For example, in this one, we assign the color. There is a characteristic that I create before. The color type, the one that we create together. And measure that it's a measure characteristic. So one characteristic where I can assign just number. Then in the rule, I can define the sequence of the answer and question. So the characteristic 100, 200, 300, and we can decide if the characteristics are mandatory or optional. And if I go on the right-hand side, I can decide also a style for each characteristic. So once assigned the style for the characteristics that are structured, I have to select the value that I can choose for the specific rule. So I press on value, and I press on import all characteristic value. So here import both, and for this one as well. I can also decide to import just a bunch of value. So if I click on import characteristic value, I can select the value that I would like to use. Then if I go back into the item card, sorry, the last part, for each rule, you can also assign relation. So relation are the dependency of the characteristic. So for example, here we create a relation type as a filter, and we said that if the primary characteristic code is C type dark, then you can choose for the color just the characteristic that start with the D letter. The same we can do with the light color and say if I select if the color type is light, I can select just the color that start with L. Now, if I go into the item card, I take the rule webinar, I copy it, I pick a generic item, this one that I create for the webinar. And this is a simple item, and then on the bottom we have a tab that is dedicated to the configurator. We have the configuration type that could be fix. Fix is for normal items, so basic items that are not configurable. Neutral to configuration are the ones that are configurable. Instead, neutral to fix, we will see later on what it means. So if I select neutral to configuration and then I assign the rule here, the item is a configurable item, so I can start the configurator wizard, press on action configurator. And here I have the three characteristics that I assigned to the rule before that follow our rules and our relations. So if I press dark, as we see before, we can select just the color that start with D. So if I select light, the same, the one that start with L. And the measure is, as we said, it's just a number. So if I press OK here, now we do have a configurable item, a new item. So now, since we finished on the really basic part, we can focus on price. So how to manage price into the sales order. So adjust price in accordance with item characteristics, and how to manage surcharge. Surcharge are basically additional fee or charge based or connect on item characteristics. So I'm going to show you another video that explains how to set up price for configurable item, and then we will turn on surcharge. So here I picked an item CFG 010, and it's a configurable item. As you see in the last tab, we got neutral to configuration and a specific rule code. The rule code has two different characteristics. Color and the number of LED are both mandatory and has a specific sequence of 10 and then 20. So first the color and then the number of LED, and are both involved into the price. Please keep in mind that the sequence is really important for price configuration. Now, we can define the price using matrix price for every specific item. So if I select the item CFG 010, so the one we were using before, we do have for this item and for all customer this combination. So if the color is nero, that actually is black, and the number of LED is 2, we got a unit price on 120. If the color is silver and the number of LED is 3, we got a unit price on 130, and so on and so forth. And this price is for all the customer and for that specific item. Moreover, about price, you can also decide and define price for specific customer, for customer price group, for campaign, and eventually if you use the configuration on a purchase order, purchase document, you can also use for vendor, and you can also use it for vendor. Then you can combine up to 10 characteristics to define price. You can manage currency code as you do in the price list, starting date, ending date, units of measure, and also minimum quantity. Now, if we go into a sales order and I create an order, we can pick whichever customer since the price is for all customer. I move into the sales line. I select my configurable item. Once I select the configurable item, the configuration wizard pop up. So here I can choose the color code and the number of LED. So the two characteristics. Remember the order was the order in the matrix price must be the same of the sequence of the characteristics. So here I select silver and 2, and sorry, the price before was 200, and then once I change, is 150 and then 120 and so on and so forth. So if I press OK, now I have a next one line, and the price of this line is the one that we have during the configuration. So this is how we combine configuration into the price matrix in order to obtain a different price based on different characteristics value. Now I move on surcharge line, so extra line that is related with a specific characteristics. I start from item CFG 005, and this item it's again a configurable item that follows a rule called demo 005. This rule code presents two different characteristics that are 007 and date. They both determine price, again the order 20 first and then 30, and C007 it's a structure and also as a surcharge type attached to it with a surcharge number, sorry. Surcharge type could be, we do have different kind of surcharge type, GL account, fixed item, resource, charge item. And then once I select one of them, then I can select which is the specific GL account or the specific item charge that I want to use as a surcharge. Then once we define that the characteristic is a surcharge characteristic, we have to define the value of this surcharge, and the value can be defined again into the matrix price for each specific item. So if I pick item CFG 005 and I select all the line that does not have any value for the characteristic code 2, we can see that for all the customer for that specific characteristic and that specific item, we do have a surcharge, so the flag surcharge is turned on. That's changed for each value of characteristic C007. So once it's B, the surcharge is 200, once it's C is 300, and so on. Then if I remove the filter, we see that we also have a price management for this specific item. So if characteristic 007 assumed value A and the second characteristic assumed value D, we do have a price of 60. B and D, we do have a price of 50 and so on. So now I go into the sales order and I start a new configuration for item C005 and show to you the result. So I insert CFG005, configuration wizard is here. I select A, and you can see straightforward that once I select A, I already have on the right-hand side a surcharge of 100. Then, of course, the combination of the price was among value D of characteristic C008. So if I select E, I don't have any price. So if I select B and D together, so the value, we got price of 50 and surcharge of 200. And if I select again A, we got a surcharge of 100. So once I press OK, I change again, just to see if we got 300. Once I press OK, the result is that we have one line with our configurable item with a variant code and a price of 55, and an extra line that is our surcharge line that is exactly our GL account with a value of 300. So the type that we define into the characteristics menu and the value that we define into the price matrix. Now let's turn on the last part regarding the essential experience, so the item with assembly bill of material. Now I will show you how to drive assembly bill of material based on characteristics. So let's start with item CFG004. Item CFG004 as a replenishment system assembly. And it's a configurable item with a rule code DEMO004. And this rule code has two characteristics. And one of them, C006, are both mandatory, of course, and one of them is a measure characteristic. So as we said in advance, just a number, no value. Now, I check the assembly bill of material for this item. And the assembly bill of material got 3 lines. And I can drive the quantity in the assembly bill of material based on the value of a characteristic. So if I have the characteristic on square bracket, means that the quantity is exactly the value of the characteristic. And then I can drive the other 2 lines using condition. So here we have 2 conditions that are complementary. So if one is true, the other one is false. I go here, and for this one, we said that if the characteristic C001 assume the value from A to C, that characteristic is true. Instead, for the second condition, we have this complementary. So if it's not equal from A to C, that condition is true. So we will have line number 3. So now, if I try to configure the item, I open the configurator. I select C. So it means the first line because the first condition is true. And then insert a value for a number for characteristic 006. And if I press OK, the system asks me if I want to check the new configured item. I press yes. And now here I check the assembly bill of material. So we have 8, that was the quantity that we imposed based on characteristic, the measure characteristic, and we got this line that was the one we conditioned true. Of course, if I do another example, so I use, I make the other condition as true, so I use characteristic value E, and then I insert 80 instead of 8, I press OK. And if I check the assembly bill of material for this item, we can see that we have 80 as quantity and line number 3. So it's pretty simple. If an item is configurable, also is bill of material is configurable. And so this is the case of assembly bill of material. And if we have a configurable item, we can configure his own price. So with the configurable bill of material, assembly bill of material, I finished the topics regards the essential experience. So now I move on the product configurator for manufacturing. So how to configure bill of material and how to configure routing. In particular about configurable bill of material, we will see how to use neutral items. So what are neutral items and how to change and configure bill of material, and also how to use the bill of material into sales order. We will see later on. So I start for neutral item, and I start with this demo, and the neutral item are basically item where once you choose characteristic, you are already selecting the final item. Let's see. Here I got this item. It has neutral to fixed configuration type and has a specific rule code. This rule code has 2 characteristics, material and color, that has specific value. The order in which they come are first material and then color. Then, if I go back in the item card, we do have a specific table that is called neutral rule. Neutral rule is the table where I insert all the possible configuration to pick the fixed item. Let's see. So here I'm saying that if I pick material vetro, glasses, and then the color is silver, my fixed item, my neutral item, my final neutral item will be this one, VT mod 1. Then if I pick aluminum and white, we will have VT mod 2 and so on and so forth. So here I insert all the possible configuration respecting the order in which the characteristics are in the rule. We can insert all the possible configuration, all the possible combination, or just a bunch of them. Again, I just want to underline the importance of the sequence. So first material and then color. Then using the standard function, I check where this item is used, and is used in a CFG 009, that is another configurable item. This configurable item has a specific rule, and this rule presents both the characteristic material and color. Now, if we check the production bill of material for this item, we can see that it has in the bill of material line the neutral item. At the end, the result will be that once we configure the item, the generic item, we will obtain a bill of material that will not have any more this item, but will have is the fixed item on the base of what we choose in during the configuration. So now, of course, we are not configuring VT item, we are configuring CFG009, and the configuration of CFG009 will transfer the value that we pick during the configuration of this item into the neutral item VT. So I pick the number of LED, the LED type, I go straight forward because this part are not involved into the neutral item. I select the length, if it's European or not, and then material and color. Material and color here are in the same order of the fixed item, and the one that we, as I said before, the one that we choose for CFG009 will be transferred to VT item. So if I press OK, the system asks me if I want to check my new configured item. And here, if I check the production bill of material, I see we don't have the generic item anymore, but the system choose for me the fixed item, the one that was in the neutral role. So if you have understood the part of the neutral item, we can move on how to define quantity and line into the bill of material, a part, of course, of the neutral item. So I start this demo. And we are again in our item CFG009. Got the rule code, the one that we see before, that presents several characteristics such as number of LED, type, material, and color we see in advance. And then here, I check the production bill of material. The production bill of material presents our neutral item, and I have already explained how it works. And then 3 different lines, long, slim, and small, that follow 3 different conditions. And also, sorry, before the quantity as the example that we saw for the assembly bill of material is driven by the value of a specific characteristic. In this case is the LED number of faro. So we got the formula, the quantity formula, and then in the line number 2, 3, and 4, we got some condition code that turn on or turn off the line into the bill of material. So if we check this one, said that far long, if the characteristic type of LED is equal to C long, we will have that line turned on. If it's slim, we will have that line turned on, and so on. So quantity is driven by a characteristic, and condition code decide which line is turned on and which line is turned off. So now, if I run the configurator, I select the number of LED, that is pretty important for our quantity, the type of LED that decide which line we have to turn on. So this case is line for the slim one. And then remember material and color that give is the value of the characteristic to the neutral item. So once I press OK, we have a new configured item, and his bill of material, let's see, present Neutral item based on the neutral rule, so it's not VT anymore, it's VT mod 1. That just one line, so 1 to 3, not so the line that was associated with the type slim. And then we also have this item. There is another neutral item I did not show you, but just to show you that we transmit the value from the father to all the sons that are into the bill of material, and we can use neutral item both that generate a new item code or can generate variant. And then you see the quantity is the number of lead multiplied by what we have inserted into the bill of material. Now is the very last part regarding the bill of material, and is how to add additional sales line based on bill of material. So this video starts from the configurator setup. Let's see how it works. So from the configurator setup, we turn on the create bill of material line in sales document. That means that we can add additional line related with the sales of material based in the sales document. This line can have a specific price, and the price can be calculated on the percentage of the bill of material, so the one that we select here, or the price list. In our example, we will use the percentage bill of material line. Moreover, you can also change the bill of material line, convert the bill of material line into comment line. Now I pick the item. Is 007. And if we inspect its bill of material, again a configurable item, of course, we see that we have 3 different lines. The quantity formula that is the same that we used in the previous example, and even the condition code are the same that I used in the previous example. But now, let's focus on this flag, create sales line. If it's turned on, we can convert this line into a sales order line. And and if we have a value here for sales price calculation, a percentage, we had a sales line that has as value a percentage of the price that we calculate during the configuration. So now, if I go back in my sales order and I insert the item CFG 007, I select the number of lead and I select the lead type. Once I select the lead type on the right-hand side, I got the preview of my price that is 90. And we said for this one, we got a 30% and the flag was turned on. So 3 and slim. And once I press OK, the result is that we have one line and another extra line that represent the 30% of the value of the price that we calculate during the configuration. 30% was 90, so it's 27, and is divided by the quantity that we assign during the bill of material configuration. So here we got an extra line that is taken from the bill of material, and has this quantity, exactly the quantity that we have in the bill of material. Last demo, instead, regard the routing part. And so we will see how to configure routing for configurable item, and how to and I will do an example to show you how it works. So I pick the item CFG 009. Again, is a configurable item with a specific role, demo 009. I go into his routing, and the routing got 3 different lines. Line number 2 and number 3 are related with a specific condition. Again, complementary condition. So if the one is true, the second one is false. I create this condition number 1. So is the length is equal to 10. This condition is true. Instead, if the length is different from 10, the second condition is true. So if it's 10, the length, we will have 9 number 2. If it's different from 10, we will have 9 number 3. Then focus on the line number 1. Line number 1 is related to a characteristic code, and it has a specific runtime. We go into the characteristic code, and for each value of this characteristic, we turn on the flag enable routing. That means that we can use this characteristic value, those characteristic value to determine the maxing center or the work center that we use in the routing. If it's not turned on, this doesn't make any sense. So I have enable routing and I have maxing center or work center, and then decide the which is the final work center. And then I said before that the routing has a specific runtime, and here we have the runtime factor. So if we got the metal and the runtime factor is 20, we got a routing time of 1, we got 1 times 20. Until time 50. Now, if I try to configure this item, we insert the number of LED, the LED type, the length, we can say different from 10 because 120 is of course different from 10, the material, and the color. So if I press OK, I check the item card. And I check the routing. We see in this case we got the same machine center, but the important stuff is that it's defined by the condition and by the value of the characteristic. And also you can see that the runtime apply the factor 50. So my demo are finished for today. There are we can say there are no more secret about the configurator for today, but there are still many undisclosed features that you can discover. So if you have any question about this feature, please feel free to
Yes,
question.
Laura, yeah. Thank you for your demo. It was very interesting. So we have some questions. One is, does the configured price for Nero and 2 LED also map back to the unit price on that newly configured item? It's in the chat. You can read it as well.
Yes, it does. Is something new, is something that released in the latest release.
Okay, thanks. We have another question. Does the configurator generate both variants and items?
Yes, it does. You can decide a default in the configuration setup, or then you can choose item rule by rule if you want to use variant or if you want to use item.
Okay, thanks. One more question. Is it possible to use the same characteristic values on different characteristics without having to duplicate them?
Yes, you can use a master characteristic and then attach the master value to the different characteristic you want to use, and then it's straightforward.
Okay, we have the last question. Is it possible to hide some characteristic from the configuration?
Yes, you can hide a characteristic in the rule. You have a simple flag that it's hide characteristic, and
okay,
even this one is straightforward.
Thank you, Laura. I know you have one latest news for us to
Yes.
share.
So, and is what's new, what's it brand new is that you can configure also item use it in the job. So configure product configurator into job planning line. And you can both use item or a variant for configuration.
Thank you. That's very nice. I know some partners were looking for this feature, so thank you for sharing that. So I believe we are all done for today. So once again, thanks everybody for joining. Thanks, Laura, for your demo. And to all of you, you can reach out to us if you have any additional information about the product configurator or any other info that you might request. Thanks, and have a good evening or day towards you. Bye.